In a forgotten corner of 15th century Eastern Europe, where the borders of empires blurred and winter never quite left, there stood a convent so isolated it was said even the devil forgot it existed, Santa Castitas. No roads led to it, no map marked it, and no pilgrims came seeking salvation. Yet for centuries the nuns who lived there whispered their prayers like prisoners, clinging to a God that no longer answered. But this story is not about them. This is the story of one woman, one nun, whose presence changed everything. She arrived in the dead of winter, carried by a horse-drawn cart whose riders wore hoods stitched shut over their faces. The Mother Superior remembered her arrival vividly, a girl no older than 19, silent, pale, and pregnant, but with no signs of labor, no signs of pain, only her eyes, black as ink, as if someone had poured night into her skull. They named her Sister Agatha. No one ever saw her speak. No one heard her pray. But the moment she entered the convent, strange things began to happen. They say birth is a holy thing, a miracle. But what came from Sister Agatha's womb was something else entirely. One storm-racked night, the screams began. Not hers, but the cries of an infant. The midwife found her alone in the chapel, soaked in blood yet unbothered. The child in her arms was still silent until it opened its mouth and laughed. No one had laid with her. No man had entered the convent's walls. No priest had performed rites of matrimony or penance. But the child was real, and so was the second and the third. By the end of that winter, Sister Agatha had given birth to 12 children. Each one malformed in some impossible way. One had black, leathery wings. Another, no eyes, but a mouth full of fangs. One girl was born with a shriveled twin still attached to her back, whispering in Latin. The nuns were horrified. They locked the children in a crypt beneath the chapel, too afraid to kill them, too afraid to let them live. But Agatha, she smiled more with every birth. By spring, the convent had changed. The garden withered overnight. Roses bloomed black. Vines grew thorns like teeth. Animals stopped coming near. Even the birds avoided the roof's bell tower. But the most terrifying change was the sound. Late at night, the nuns began hearing whispers, coming not from the children, but the very walls. Sister Beatrice swore she heard prayers, twisted versions of scripture, recited backwards. Sister Maria claimed her crucifix wept blood every time she passed Agatha's door. One nun went missing. Then 2, then 3. The Mother Superior forbade any more investigation. She sealed off the crypt, burned the staircase to it. She told the others it was over, but it wasn't. Agatha had already birthed 43 more. Some were no longer infants. They grew faster than human children. They spoke Latin at 3 weeks. They walked by the end of the month. One of them had wings strong enough to break through a chapel window. The town nearby began finding animals, entire flocks of sheep, drained of blood, and every night more whispers filled the halls, not from Agatha, but from her children. It happened on the Feast of the Ascension. At midnight the bells rang, but no hand touched the ropes. The air grew cold. The floor beneath the nuns' feet felt live. Sister Veronica went to check the chapel. She never returned. Then came the screams, not human ones, something higher, shriller, like iron scraping bone. Doors slammed shut on their own, candles blew out, and the children, the ones in the crypt, they weren't in the crypt anymore. One nun was found torn apart at the altar. Another was dragged into the well, her blood rising with the water. They tried to flee, but the exit gates had rotted overnight, twisted metal and splinte. Red wood now formed a crude shape, a massive womb, pulsating like it was alive. In the chapel, Agatha stood in her habit, cradling her 100th child. This one had no face, just a wide, sucking hole where the head should be. She whispered something in a tongue no nun had heard, and the stained glass windows shattered inward, slicing anyone who remained. By sunrise, there were no nuns left alive, except Agatha, and the children, Weeks later, a lone traveler found her, Agatha, kneeling in the ashes of the convent, surrounded by bones and toys. She did not run. She did not blink. When the church came, they thought her possessed. She smiled, then whispered, "They were not mine. I was merely the door." The Inquisition convened, not in a courtroom. No, in the catacombs beneath Rome. Even the Pope refused to see her above ground. She did not eat. She did not sleep. But her belly was swollen again. She was burned, exorcised, tortured. Every lash drew no blood, only ash. They tried holy water. Her skin sizzled, but she laughed. One priest collapsed after looking her in the eye. He never spoke again. In a final act of desperation, the tribunal sealed her inside a coffin of silver, lined with relics from saints long dead. She was buried in the deepest part of the Vatican archives, and every wall around her tomb was lined with mirrors so that she would have to see what she was, what she had done. Centuries passed. The church tried to forget her. Records were redacted, names erased, the convent demolished, salted, burned again, but the whispers never stopped. In 1911, a Jesuit archivist named Father Luca was sent below. Routine inventory, they said. He never returned. When others followed, they found his journal, open, fresh ink, but no body, just one line. She has one more child to bear. The tomb was open, the relics inside melted, the mirrors shattered from the inside. Rome trembled that night. A series of earthquakes with no epicenter. Witnesses swore they saw a woman, cloaked in black, her stomach grotesquely distended. Walking the alleyways near the Tiber, they found claw marks on stone walls and cradles rocking in empty churches. They say her 100 demon children were only the beginning. The 101st would be something else, not a child, not even a demon, a replacement, a mother, because monsters don't always need to be born. Sometimes they only need to awaken, and when they do, no gate, no prayer, no God can put them back to sleep.